All right, here we go again. More to It podcast. Hell Varsity Magazine, hellvarsity.com. We are back in Corey's basement. We're recording this on Monday.
Now known as the Dungeon of Sorrow.
Yeah, there's a lot of sorrow. It's just a lot. This is getting all too familiar again. Unfortunately, we've been bamboozled again. We've been swindled and bamboozled because my expectations have been a lot higher, and we're not. I'm tired of getting tricked.
I feel like I've been kissed on the cheek, and then I go for my wallet, and it's gone. I really have no other way to put it. This is as bad as a feeling that I have. You and I watched the game together.
We did watch
play
together.
for play, and the optimism just sucked out of that room the further the game went on, and the Coors Light sucked into our stomach the more that game went on, and it was. We didn't even want to talk about it afterwards.
No. Honestly, my parents came down yesterday afternoon. My dad helped me with a little home project. We went to this Christmas dinner deal. And my mom's like, what'd you think of the game? I'm like, what game? I'm tired. I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, I got to talk about it, with Corey on the pod. And I got to talk about a Big Red Wrap-Up, which you can catch on NET, Nebraska's PBS, NPR stations for game highlights and analysis on Big Red Wrap-Up Tuesday nights live at 7 on NET, World, and Facebook, and on 10 on NET. And I'm just like, I don't know what to tell. This was hard, you're doing this. We do the podcast, doing some radio, doing Big Red Wrap-Up. I don't know what to talk about anymore that hasn't already been discussed. That's just what happens. You're talking about losing football.
Well, let's talk about what you and I started talking about is, do we have any gamers? Do people know what gamers are?
Well, the phrase has always said big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. And when you get into Big Ten play, those are all big-time games. I don't care who
every snap counts.
Every single one of them. And we're talking does it seem when things are going not the right way, but who's a guy you're like, you know what, let's get him the rock. And Saban has been a guy, arguably he's the best coach in college football, without a doubt. That's not even, arguably. It's not even up to
Dabo
discussion.
You could put in that conversation, but
sure,
historic wins over wins.
But he says you don't, in plays or in games, you don't coach plays, you don't call plays for the plays, you call plays for a player.
Right. And
we don't, I'm like, other than Wandell,
Martinez was on a Heisman watch list. Those people aren't stupid. It's not like I'm voting on it. He has got to make plays. He has got to be the recruit that we sought after, got, and put in to start the game as a freshman. Where is he? Sometimes you got to take things into your own hands, Jay, as a quarterback, when you've got the ability to do it. And he's nowhere to be found.
Well, this is one of his worst games. Missed many open wide receivers. Now, I did not realize, now recording this pod, that he did miss a practice this past week because of a shoulder injury he got at Purdue. And I think he got it dinged again when we saw Luke McCaffrey come in, and then he threw the interception. So I don't know if that's a part of it because he missed. But we had what we saw. I was praising Adrian for playing well against Iowa, played very well against Purdue.
Smart football, tough football.
Yeah, made the throws, and then all of a sudden he did not make the throws. He made one nice kind of roll into his left, I think to Wandell. It just seems like Wandell caught every pass that we threw.
Is he the only guy out there? I didn't even count the other.
It feels like it at times. But I'm like, oh man, this is the bad Wandell. Or not Wandell, this is the bad Adrian. And this is kind of the guy who we kind of saw last year dealing with the shoulder injury. And I don't know, like now that he was dealing with the shoulder injury, I don't want to be too critical of him, but it's again, when you got guys open and this is your third year, and if you're hurt that bad to where you can't hit, and it doesn't show any signs, but you can't make certain throws, and you probably shouldn't be playing.
No, and you cannot mentally have a split personality at quarterback or at any position. Believe me, Jay, I know about multiple personalities with all the ex-girlfriends that I've had. Believe me, you don't want that schizophrenia going through their brain. And now we got this guy that goes out and goes against Iowa, who's the number 3 defense in the Big Ten, who's a very solid team, does a great job, and then come and just lays an egg against a team that is sick, literally, from COVID, beat up, and really on their heels, and we don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, and
in Lincoln.
This might have been, statistically, through 6-7 games, I don't know how many you recall it, just that we've all been able to play. Minnesota might have been one of the worst defenses. They're giving up almost 7 yards a play coming into this game. And look at our I don't know if we're that far off per play, but again, we averaged 5.5 rushing. We averaged 3.8. We threw the ball 29 times,
which does not make any sense to me either. Why are we airing the ball out with Martinez when he's not getting results? You got Mills back, give him the ball.
That's just so. Let's just get. So now that we know this is what's so obviously we're going to talk. Let's dive deep into the offense here because this has been throughout this year. This is if the offense has not carried their weight, and I've said it numerous times in here. The offense I thought was on a roll this year, just being a third-year starter, your most experienced O-line. Now, we do know at the time we're recording this podcast on Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock that Brendan Hymas has opted out of the Rutgers game. So now you're looking at maybe Turner Cochran stepping in there, another young player.
I respect that because unless I absolutely have to, I will not go to New Jersey.
Yeah, it's not a great place. You and I have both been there.
I'm not going to Fair Lawn again.
Right. Corey and I both trained in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, getting ready for the combine and the draft and pro days. That's not great.
It is dark days.
You know what? That's
Garden
I look
State
back.
ass,
Yeah.
Jay.
Well, I look back and it's like, okay, yeah, I liked the agent in the company, but it's like, you're a dumbass. You can sign with this other guy you're thinking about in there in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Made more sense.
Geez, you're gonna be anywhere for 2 months. You might as well be somewhere warm and nice, and you can enjoy yourself instead of
tubs and
it's literally like what we have outside right now. Every day in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Whatever.
But if you going back to what you're saying with the offense and defense, Minnesota, they're giving up 31.8 points a game.
Right.
We're giving up 30.6. So we're not that far off in terms of defense. I really feel our defense has been going in the correct direction and getting that stat line down. But Minnesota was going the other way. So you have an offense that's playing some tough defenses, moving the ball, and they come out and they can't produce the plays to get points. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it, coaching.
Yeah.
Luke, you want to talk about Luke McCaffrey now? You and I were sitting there going, okay, Martinez needs a little break. Here we go. Let's get a couple QB runs, couple reads. Now, you know what? Let's just throw it twice with a cold quarterback off the bench who didn't even know he might get in the game at some point.
Well, and it's cold outside and you're throwing into a wind. And when it's cold, that wind is even more difficult.
Right.
And we were talking, if I'm a head coach, I don't think I ever will be. And I'm in that situation. I'm just playing, I'm playing smart football there. I'm playing the odds. I can't remember exactly where Nebraska had the ball in that situation, but it was on
around midfield.
It was on our I know it was on our side of the field. But I'm getting some runs. I'm getting maybe Luke a quick run to get him sometimes you need that ding, that shot to kind of get you woken up a little bit, like, okay, here we go, I'm in the game. And then if you want to throw a pass maybe, but you come out throwing it. But again, run the ball. Minnesota hasn't been very good stopping the run at all during the year. And if they shut you down, you punt it and you flip the field. And you buy time for your starting quarterback to come back in. But then you try to throw it, and he throws it behind Austin Allen, gets a hand on it, gets tipped. It's just, that's what's sometimes in our play calling, there's such high risk, low reward type of stuff that goes on. It's like the opening play of the game.
How do you blame McCaffrey for that either?
Well, he's trying to execute a call. He's just trying to do what's being asked of him.
I know, and you and I were sitting there and we go, were there 9 guys in the box? Did we need to check to a pass or something there? No. Yeah. Nothing. It's just a standard play.
Right. And you open the game with the same kind of similar play against Illinois, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this feels like exactly like deja vu, except we got the ball back. But this team, it's just weird offensively. You can't, when this is, I guess this team is just fragile. I really do think they're super fragile. If you got to somehow get your team off to a good start, maybe I don't care if you do throw that bubble pass to Wandale. I don't care if you execute it 1,000 times in practice. During the week, it was warm when they practiced. It wasn't as cold. And all of a sudden you're doing that, and it's just different. From practice to a game is different. I just want something to get the game going. Get some
trick play.
Do
something.
You don't need to try to drive the green on a par 4 on the first tee shot. And I don't even think they were, but it's like, dude, can we just get in a rhythm, a groove here, and just get going, and then get a feel for the game? And I don't know, because that's where I struggle. I just think through all this stuff. I'm thinking, okay, no feel of failure. I get it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to implement it. We're going to go. But I'm also we're not good enough to do that.
No, I get what they're seeing on film, especially with that first play of the game. You got DBs that are playing off. Linebackers are playing off. You think you're blocking wide receivers are going to get on their blocks. You're going to get your best player in space the ball, and he's going to get 8-10 yards off the bat. What a good play call to start the game. But if you can't execute it, you know what, Jay? Let's just go down to the stadium after this. Let's grab that fucking play card, and let's just start scratching off anything that's a lateral or backwards. We're not doing them anymore.
Right.
You just can't do it. Motion the goddamn guy and just do that little front pitch.
Right.
And if he drops it, it's incomplete.
Right.
You think fucking 7 yards are going to make a difference on him getting to the outside with his speed? Maybe I will be a head coach someday at this point, Jay, because the bar is extremely low.
Right. I like that play call way better, because that's a low risk, much higher reward.
There ain't no DN, and you know this, maybe you actually, Carricker, that could get out and catch him in space.
No one. You're by the time you see you might be able to reach a hand, but you're not probably bringing them down. But it's just.
And then when you do play it, what happens? You get a quarterback that runs right under your ass and gets 15 yards.
He keeps it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And apparently Scott and company saw that on the game film and thought this is a no-brainer, and they kept going back to it. But you got to be able to adjust in game. That makes zero sense to me. Okay, well, we maybe missed through it on the first one, caused a 6-yard loss. Stupid us. Let's just try it again 2 plays later. I don't know. I felt like I was watching the state championship at Memorial Stadium. No fans, people dropping balls, throwing backwards. I go, is this Elkhorn?
Right, easy. Yeah,
I'm fired up.
You are fired up.
I let it go on Saturday. I just sat there in my spot.
You did. We both stayed pretty. Yeah, we were both pretty quiet, because I was not. That's just. I guess I'm a biggest Husker homer. I just feel like I want it to happen just as badly as everyone else wants it, and I do have a lot of faith and trust into what's going on down there. And I think okay, we saw some good things. We saw, you look at the Penn State game. You're like, okay, boom, we had some adversity. We overcame it. We got some 4th down stops. Boom, we win. Okay, let's start stacking wins. Let's parlay this thing. Let's
get some momentum.
Let's get some momentum. Get some confidence. And then you absolutely shit the bed against Illinois, and you're like, okay, well, what do we do? What are we doing now?
We're still young. We're still young.
Not even that. That was, to me, that was a horrible, inexcusable loss in a performance. And then, so then you got Iowa. All right, well, you battled Iowa, short week, came out, defense played their balls off. You're physical. You were tough. Iowa's defense is really good. You had your chances. You had your opportunities. Just weren't able to get done. But you know what? You saw something. You're like, okay, that looked way better than Illinois. And all right, Iowa's really good. Right. And you can see it. And you're like, okay, all right. And then you go play Purdue, and you win. And that wasn't rather convincingly, but
it
other
wasn't
than
close either.
The score other than that one big play, Nebraska
dominates.
They came out and handled business, and again had some issues with adversity, and were able to overcome it. And then you're like, okay, they're going to learn their lesson from Illinois, and they're not going to let this shit happen anymore. And your Minnesota's does it not full strength. They haven't been able to practice. rolling out.
They don't want to come.
We're almost a JV squad. I thought where's Minnesota's mindset in all this? I'm thinking maybe these players are checked out. Like, who gives a shit anymore? Like, we're playing with half our squad. We can't do anything anymore. We're stuck in dorm rooms. We can't live our lives. But they came out there and they look like they just came off a win and had been playing for the last 3 weeks. And we look like the team who has 30 guys out and we haven't been able to practice. And then just like, where's the disconnect? And we were talking about the offense, but now it's just like big picture. Like, where's the disconnect and all that to where, how does that happen? And that's just, I don't have the right answer for it. I don't.
No, it doesn't seem like anyone.
And here's like, I come like you hear we've had another good practice, a good week of practice. So again,
I'm tired of hearing that.
Here, let's just now if you're having good practices, how is it not equating to games? Okay, and I'm thinking back because when we have good practices as a defense, we don't know what the offense is doing, right?
Not unless we're doing individual
or
you're doing
9-on-7 or blitz period or something like that. And even that's the case, like you might not understand or totally know what's going on. So just because you don't know their game plan, what they're running maybe against Oklahoma State or Texas could be a lot different than what they're doing against us in 9-on-7. Who knows?
Right.
But you just go and play. And so if you just keep saying they're having good weeks of practice and this is the results you're getting, what is going on in practice? And I'm like, are they getting the right looks? Are they getting – to me, it's like, are they getting the good enough looks from the scout team? Are the scout team going hard enough? Like we discussed, there's a lot of brother-in-law going on.
Yep. But
are they half-assing the looks? They're just not getting after it. It's just like kind of 1-2 step.
It just feels like no piece of the puzzle makes sense when you're trying to find an answer because you see all these transfers – entering the transfer portal, and immediately our brain for the guys that wanted out before was too hard.
Yeah,
they're going too hard on me. I want out. I want to go to something easier.
It's not for everyone.
Frost is grinding. So you're sitting there going, if that's the case and these guys are leaving, where are the results? Why aren't we showing a tougher game out there? It doesn't.
What's weird is when you see good production and you see things are clean and clicking, and it happens, and the next week it looks nothing similar. You're just like there's too far of a drop off. Like that's what's weird. It's like I have a lot of golf analogies. It's like a PGA Tour guy goes out and shoots 65, and the next day he comes out and shoots 85. Like there's too big of discrepancies.
Yeah, get off my gin app. That's exactly what I do.
You don't shoot 65s.
I have
on 9 holes. Well, I'm just saying like that doesn't happen.
No,
like that
there's a consistency to it that. So, okay, take a step back. Maybe we don't have the right recipe. And what I mean by that is we sat there and watched the Iowa game right after the Husker game. And you know what? It was boring. It was awful. It was tough to watch, especially with an Iowa fan there, Mason.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what? They beat the crap out of the other team.
Yeah.
They weren't fancy. They weren't trying to throw a bunch of weird screen passes. They weren't They lined up and beat you. Mm-hmm. And I sat there and go, that's the team we almost competed against. And I just watched our team take 10 steps back. Maybe the recipe is that, Jay, for now, until we get the players that Frost wants in his system. Because I don't see anything from the press conferences and all the talk coming out into the field. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not. I love analogies. But
you're good at it.
We're
I get them.
Yeah, we're joking before, and it's like someone who is heavier set, they're fat, they're telling you, hey, I'm working really hard on this diet, right? I'm working really hard on this diet, and I'm eating the right things, and I'm doing it. But you know what? You see them every time. They look exactly the same.
Yeah, and I just saw him at fucking McDonald's. Don't worry why I'm there. Worry about yourself, right. Mr. Diet Man.
Yeah.
And
it's like,
that's exactly
what
right.
Are you doing? You're telling me all these things, but I'm seeing the same results.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to lose 50 pounds, but you ain't lost.
If you're telling me it's a 5-year process like this Frost thing, I'm going to lose my shit.
Right. You got to find a different diet.
Yeah, get a different diet.
You got to get a different diet. You got to start, like, fasting or something.
Yeah.
You got to cleanse or something. You got to start doing something, and that's just where the uncomfortable like talk. And again, it's year 3, and yes, it should look better. And yes, are we dealing with some goofy things? I totally get it. I'm not trying to make excuses anymore because I hear enough of them, and it's you're losing to teams you should beat. Okay.
I don't think we're asking for too
No,
much
I'm
here.
not.
What I'm asking
I'm not.
for is getting rid of the bullshit, the stupid mistakes, the stupid penalties, the inconsistency snapping, just mental mistakes. That stuff takes very little talent.
No.
It takes very little
It's
talent.
attention to detail.
That's right. I know, and we used to say, a lot of our coaches, Coach Cosgrove and Callahan had a sophisticated offense. We all knew that. It was tough to learn and to implement. But at some point, maybe it's too tough and too difficult to implement, and you got to take a step back.
Well,
they don't want to. I'm not dumbing it down for my players. Work harder.
Right.
That's not going to work for a lot of these kids.
Maybe, yeah. We've heard the comment, I hope people are going to adjust to us. And I've said it. I think he's going to have to adjust to what the Big Ten does because we don't play clean enough football, and they get more out of their talent that they have. Because again, I think early signing date's on Wednesday this week, and we're going to have another top 25 class. I think we're 6th in the Big Ten. We keep stacking these good recruiting classes, even with Riley and even when Bo finished here. So you should have some talent, but again, it's not equaling wins. So you have to have these discussions with yourself. It's like, what is going on? And why are we struggling? And I go back to, practicing well, not playing well. And again, I'm gonna talk about golf. As when you're warming up anybody can go to the driving range and hit it good on the driving range, right? And they can
Almost
say,
everyone.
right? Well, they probably hit it better.
Right.
But how many people do you say like, I wasn't doing that on the driving range. I was striping it. I never hit that shot warming up. What the hell? Well, you know what matters? Or it matters now. You know what the difference is? Because you can just pull up another ball and practice and hit it. But now you're dealing
state changes.
You
That's
do.
Number one.
Right. And all of a sudden you see OB stakes, you see hazards, it's not hazards anymore, they're penalty areas. You see I get my lingo, I guess. But you see all these things and you got to write a score down now. Mm-hmm. It matters. There's a certain expectation, right?
That's right?
It's a par 4, it's a par 5. I need to par it or breed it in one hole to have a good hole. So all of a sudden in practice, I'm just trying to think of ways like, are they competing enough in practice? Are they doing certain things? Like, are they going out there and just run and play? I haven't been to practice in like a year and a half. I mean, obviously you can't go to practice anyways this year, but where are the expectations? Are they overwhelming for the staff? Are they overwhelming for the players? All of a sudden when it matters, I'm just talking out loud here to just try to figure out why there's such a disconnect from practice to game if they are practicing so well, and how it's good one week and so poor the next. And it's not against, and you're not playing. It's not like you're playing you're not playing a NAIA school one week and you're playing the Chicago Bears, the 85 Bears or something like that. Like,
thank you.
There's nothing. I thought you'd appreciate that. And it's because Purdue and Minnesota, not a ton of differences. Like Purdue should have beat Minnesota in Minnesota because they got that crappy call against them. Which, by the way, we got a couple crappy calls. That targeting rule on 4th down by
Cam
Taylor. Here's
my opinion, our best player on defense.
Yeah, probably
gets. Was it a targeting?
It's
too live. There's this thing called too live, too fast. What if the guy lured?
Here's my thing. If it's not called on the field,
you can't call it. That's right.
Because remember,
called a missed call.
You can't review it and just say, ooh, after you saw, ooh, we see something. Well, how about then when they missed the holding call on Waddell coming out of his route and they replayed it, they should be able to say that should be a holding, throw a flag on that.
Make a decision. They can't have it both ways.
Like, you can't look at it. It has to either be called in the field, because if it's not evident enough from the field, then the only way you can see it is in a super slow-mo that what are we doing? Like, you can't.
Games are going to be 5 hours long.
Right. You can't. And then the holding call, that's happened twice now where guys are literally, and we've scored touchdowns, guys are literally falling to the ground, and our old linemen could pick their arms up and he's still going to fall to the ground. But we get holding calls. That happened against Cam Jurgens, Illinois, and that happens at Piper on Adrian's really good run. And all they do is kind of fall on him. Which you're like O-line coaches, you coach the fall because the last thing you want to do is let him get up and make a play.
Right.
So you coach the fall on him, and just they're bad calls. And those are 14 points. Those are 14 points. It was a fourth down play.
It mattered.
And it was a touchdown. Those are 14 points. Now you take those points away.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
And then we jinxed our kicker.
Yeah,
on the podcast last week. Right. That's our bad. We'll take that one.
It still is only second miss. It's still a much successful kicking season. But again, that was kind of a tangent because that needed to get talked about. But again, I'm just talking out loud. Why? Like, is it? I think obviously you got to change something. If you're saying you're practicing well and you're not getting the results, you got to change practice.
So let me give you an example. Okay, and I'll ask you to see if you remember this before I tell you who it is. I can't remember if you were still there or not. I think you were. Remember coming out, we're in warm-ups, and I'm sitting there, and, the starters are in the front of the line, the captain's in front of them, and I'm warming up, and this guy comes in and he pats me on the shoulder, and he goes, hey, there's a Naperville guy if I've ever seen one. I turn around, it's Sean Payton, head coach of the New Orleans Saints. And I go, what the hell is he doing here?
Was I here?
It had to be my senior year.
Oh, so I wasn't here.
So Callahan told him to come over and say hi because he's a Naperville guy. Callahan's a Naperville guy. I'm a Naperville guy.
I thought Callahan was a Southside guy.
Well, he went to college in Naperville.
Oh, got it.
We all within the same area, right? But I go, what are you doing here? And I was just like, nice to meet you. He went to our rival school, so I was talking shit about Naperville Central. The Redhawks, they're terrible, still are, always will be. He goes, no, Coach, I wanted to visit with Coach. We're good friends. He asked me to come in and evaluate practice to see where I could lend some help. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. What a great idea. Bring one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the world that you're friends with into practice to evaluate your team and your structure. When you're struggling, there's nothing wrong with asking for a little help.
It's humility.
That's right. And I get it. Scott Frost has every attribute to be one of the greatest coaches in college football. I truly believe that. But if you're not there, you got to bend some ideas. You got to. Sometimes if the thing you do every day ain't working anymore, I always say try brushing your teeth with your left hand. Yeah. See if it helps a little better because your fucking breath stinks.
Right.
So anything to try to get a better result. That impressed me. I still do that, in my career today. If I feel I'm struggling, I call up to people that I think that could help. And if we don't do something like that, just evaluate yourselves. They do that after every season, and people out there know that they go back and they game plan themselves.
Self-scout.
They self-scout. They game plan themselves. And then when we're watching this game, we talked about the top 20, the first 20.
Yeah.
And we were explaining that to the other people watching the game is they've got an offensive script where they're essentially sticking to it outside any major down and difference that we're, you go a play that could go from 2nd to 3 to 2nd and 9 to 2nd and 19. You got to make adjustments. But essentially, they're sticking to that script. Mm-hmm. Are we sticking to it too much?
Could potentially. I don't know.
I mean, 3rd and long after we threw the first pass completely backwards, we ran the same play. Are we just sticking to the script when we should be making adjustments?
I don't know. The offensive game plan seemed rather. I haven't broken down my play yet. I'm doing, for bigger wrap up. But the offensive game plan was soft to me. It was super horizontal.
You got a beat up team.
Go at them.
Go at them until they're going to quit. You might not get results to the 3rd quarter, but you know who did that? Iowa.
How many times are we running QB power and counter? I'm like, ooh yeah.
Here we go.
Let's go.
You called it 2 seconds before the play. It was ruining the game for me, Jay.
But I'm like, here it is. They go empty. This is empty. It's going to be a QB power, and boom. I'm like, here it is. I think got a touchdown or a couple first downs out of it, but then they get the fly motion, and I think they ran to Xavier Betts once and Wandale, and you're just like, Minnesota wasn't having it.
Hindsight's 20/20. I always say that. But goodness gracious, wear them down. You got a skeleton crew over there.
Go at them.
7-0. Let's win the game 7-0.
And I think you and I talked about it. I'm like, I just wonder if he can win it ugly. Does it have to look a certain way? Does that to? And humility has a lot. I think, he wants. I don't know if he's doing it at all. Obviously, I know there was some communication, but we talked about Nick Saban being one of the greatest coaches coaching right now in college football. I mean, there's a guy still living in Lincoln, Nebraska, who is one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, in Tom Osborne.
Yeah, his son lives right next door. Must
Yeah.
be put on his putting green. Hasn't helped much.
And I don't know. Maybe I am bending his ear, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know, but it would be to the point where, and I know you have to take some ownership of your own program, but I'm to the point where I'd be like, where T.O. would have to be like, Jay, I'm really tired of coming up there. I'm really tired of talking.
We're winning. Who cares?
Of talking. Like, I need a break. I need to go fishing. Like,
absolutely.
I got out of coaching because now I feel like I'm coach. And that's just what I would. And that's just me. Like, listen, if I had, as a golfer, if I had Tiger effing Woods living in my town and I knew him really well, and guess who I'm calling to help me with my golf game? I'm wearing his
Zach
ass.
Johnson.
I'm wearing his ass out.
That's right.
If I have resources to the best to ever do it, I am wearing their, like, I don't care. Like, I just want to win, and I don't care. Like,
and he wants you to win.
Right, so he does, and he cares just as much.
Exactly.
And I don't, like, and is
I'm
he
not saying
using
go
it?
to T.O., but
No,
I'm saying
would.
do something.
I would.
Get
I mean,
some
just something.
self-evaluation.
And maybe they are, and maybe maybe they're not. I don't know. We don't know. Like, it's just,
Who's
we don't
our
know
player
exactly.
quality control coaches? Do we have any of those?
You probably look them up. I couldn't.
Who's the head of football operations?
It's
Davidson? What's Davidson?
No, Davidson is.
Besides hanging out gate 25.
Yeah.
Just kidding, Matt. Good to see you there.
Oh.
It's gonna backfire.
Gosh, dang it.
These are the type of guys that are supposed to be doing that stuff. So people at home, you have your head of football operations. He's under the AD. He's the liaison between your AD and your head coach, and they get people on the same page. They get the program moving smoothly. But you've got these, player quality type coaches. They're responsible for the quality of life and the quality of learning, moving that athlete forward, that student athlete, both off and on the field. That's what they're there for, but they're also there for quality control and practices. This isn't working, this structure's not working, let's try this. That's their job, because Coach Frost, the coordinators, they got enough to do, they've got enough to figure out. This is the job of those guys. Shit, Jay, what a great job for Corey McKeon. Just go around and cuss at kids.
Well, Jared Lambrick is chief of staff.
Okay.
So Davison is associate AD. Trent Mossbrucker is director of football and recruiting administration. Sean Dillon is director of player personnel. So, like, you have them, you have your GAs and all this stuff that handles some of these details that
maybe they're not having enough fun. How is PJ Fleck? I always had a lot of respect for PJ Fleck because Western Michigan was just the rollover team of the Midwest. Whether you were playing non-conference games, whether they were MAC games, he went in there, turned that program around. He earned that head coaching job in Minnesota, no doubt about it. How does he, with a skeleton crew, motivate his kids to come down to Lincoln, Nebraska in 20-degree weather and go out and whoop their ass? He's running down the field. He's running up the field.
It's not about having fun, Corey. I don't think you have to, like, to be honest, like, the football season the games are fun, but the middle of the week was absolutely miserable. Like, it was not fun. I don't think you have to have fun. But you have to, like, I always say you have to embrace the suck.
But I always saw the vision.
Right, but you have to embrace the suck.
And you can always make it better by being positive and having fun. But
sure,
Wednesday practice when you're gonna hit Greg Austin or Carl Nix again, Matt Slauson.
Yeah.
God, that's
no, it's not fun.
But you know what? I knew if I did that right, then the guy I had to face on Saturday ain't gonna be so tough.
Right, totally. And that's where you had to get. That's where you had to. People got to buy in, and players got to buy in. You got to do that. Practices need to be harder so the games are easier.
That's exactly right.
And you have to do
that's the way you want to do it.
And that's just the buy-in. That's the. I'm struggling for words right now. That's just the sacrifice that you have to make. Like,
you sign the papers, man. You sign up for it.
There's, like we discussed, I think this is probably after the Illinois game. It just feels like we're going back to the rehashing all the same topics. But there's no worse feeling than losing and being embarrassed about your performance, that it has to eat at you so bad that you're willing to do whatever. Remember I said I would literally lick the bathroom floor of the rail? and I'm like, just to get better and
Yeah,
play
and I
well.
said I'd come to your funeral. So we're both willing to make the steps necessary.
No, you probably, if you did that, you don't have COVID.
That's a new strand. But that's exactly right. And I'm going to tell Nebraska fans out there, if that's the issue, we're in trouble. If that's not the issue, it's just a timing of personnel and being able to execute your game plan. You could figure that stuff out. You'll get players in. You could figure that out. But if it's a core issue, you're in trouble.
I don't think it's I don't know. I mean, I think they're putting the effort in strength conditioning. I don't think they're getting pushed around. I don't think that. But I do think it's an execution thing, and that comes to details. That comes to way you're organizing your practices. Is it a competition thing? Are you competing enough in practice? Are there consequences for messing up in practice? Because that's how you get over these mistakes that are causing you football games. There got to be consequences for poor play in practice. Because if there's not, because obviously there's consequences for poor play in a game. You're going to lose. You're going to turn the football over, and you're not going to play well. No. And you're going to be embarrassed, and it sucks. And so.
I'm not going to tell you who told me this because they know who they are. But this opened my eyes a little bit. I went from almost zero playing time, some such teams, to a black shirt. Rare, but stuff like that. Mm-hmm. After Barrett Ruud, I thought that was a pretty good, hard-working job by me to do it. But there was something that really stood out in my mind. And if this is what motivates you, fucking great. Go for it. But this guy told me, when we were working real hard in practice, we're going through individuals, so you already know it's a linebacker. And I was really feeding off that person's energy because individuals are tough, man. Yeah. Think about 35, 40 straight minutes of hard drills trying to get your fundamentals right. There's nothing fun about it. It's nothing sexy, but it needs to be done so you can play.
Yeah, it's like taking your vitamins.
That's right. So you got to do it. And if there was one guy I just fed off of. So finally I asked him, I go, you know what? You always pick me up during, it's good to compliment you guys.
Yeah.
You always pick me up during individuals. You give me a little bit more hustle. Where do you get your motivation? And this guy told me, he goes, Corey, in about 2 weeks, we're going to take that black shirt poster picture, and that's going to be hanging on every wall of every girl at this university. And when they see that number out on the field, I want it to be associated with tackles. I said, that is brilliant. And when they did take the picture, I made sure to do my hair after practice because that was going through my head. And if that's what motivates you, great. But you got to find something. You got to dig.
You do. It's just, you got to.
Stu Bradley. Excuse me.
I knew exactly who you were getting at. It's just, it's hard. I mean, you're dealing with 11 different personalities. It's tough. And you're dealing with young personalities. You're dealing with guys who have dealt with adversity in their life. You've dealt with guys who haven't had to deal with adversity yet. Guys handle coaching differently. They handle situations differently. It's tough. And we're just trying to figure out for the greater good of this program. I mean, yes, I'm tired of talking about losses. Everyone's tired of watching losses, and we could sit here and talk about statistical stuff and what but Nebraska just doesn't execute, and when they need to make a play, they just don't make plays in games where they have, that's the thing, is they have made plays in games where it feel like this is going to be a loss. They did it in Penn State. They did it against Purdue. I'll give them credit for that. But again, so when they do it, then it just doesn't happen, the inconsistencies of it all. So just this discussion of how does it get fixed, and that's just kind of where we kind of been here for the last almost 40 minutes and talking about this.
And I'm really getting sick and tired of talking about it because I don't think we're asking for too much. We talked about what kind of fan are we going to be going forward? Are we going to be the haters? Time to hit the reset button again. You do want to be in Auburn's shoes right now, who just fired their head coach.
I don't want to get rid. I don't. That's what I'm afraid, because I don't want to be doing this again in a couple years, because this doesn't work. I don't want, that's the last thing we want to do. I don't want to get rid of any assistant coaches. I don't want to do it, because you can't always. The message has to be consistent. We're already talking about an inconsistency issue. You need to keep getting the consistent message from the same people, and that's what made Nebraska so. Yeah, sure, T.O. was great, but this has been discussed for many years. But T.O. had the same staff for 3 decades.
And that certainly
It doesn't
plays
happen
a
anymore.
huge piece in
It doesn't happen anymore because all those
continuity.
D coordinators and offensive guys that get pulled for other jobs.
Right.
But,
young talent gets gone quick here. It's easier to find them.
Well, yeah, you're successful. I mean, hell, Oklahoma just lost Beamer, and he's going to go be the coach at South. Just great programs lose assistants all the time. They're just going to get pulled.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the story of it. But that's what made them great because there was always a consistent message. And yeah, did they change some things? Yeah. Did Charlie McBride change his defense to a 4-3 after they got murdered by speed every year in the bowl games against Miami?
Yes.
Because I think they ran like a 5-2, I believe, and they changed. Like, we got to be able to compete. And Nebraska was still pretty successful, but they're like, if we want to win a national championship and beat the Miamis, the Florida States, maybe some SEC school, Florida, we can't do it running this defense. We got to change it up.
That's right.
And they had you change it and you adapt. And I know, and it's not like Scott and his staff aren't having these conversations. I guarantee you they're pulling their hair out saying
exactly. Listening to this podcast every Monday
morning. Let's check in on what Jay and Corey are saying.
They're just a bunch of bitches complaining over there. Let's turn it off.
Yeah.
A lot of cussing today.
Yeah.
I needed to get it out.
You did. I haven't cussed. I've maybe said shit. You dropped a few F-bombs. That's good. It feels good though. You need to do it. It's healthy.
It's good.
It's healthy. You get that frustration in there. Then
we sit here and we're like, Jay and I will look at stats and we're looking at the game stats and that Big Ten stats, and Nebraska is middle of the road, a little bit to the back of the middle on just about everything, but our record is back of the bus. So they're in something just doesn't make sense to me. You can't be 7, 8, 9 in almost every category and then be back of the bus in terms of wins. That's what's scary. I don't have an answer for that.
Well, no, but you're not going to have ever great stats if you're never winning football games. You're always going to be back of the bus on everything.
Right, but even if, you look at Ohio State and you're thinking, oh, they're going to be the head of everything. Well, they're not. They're still giving up 24 points a game. That's what we're giving up. We're a little worse than that, 30. I didn't want to read that out loud. But we're a little worse than that, but their offense picks them up. And I think we were going to be in a situation where our offense
Ohio
was going to
State
pick
game
us
has killed our per game, giving up 52. But
yeah, that hurts.
Well, granted, they had it was 45. They did score one defensive touchdown.
Right, but there's a disconnect there, and when you look, you really break it down. It has to do with turnovers.
Well,
has to do with big plays.
It's just another one-score loss that we have. And I think what did I see the stat was, if I could find it again, that in Nebraska's, in how many is the Frost one-score losses? I think Nebraska is
like 8 of them or something.
No,
like that, isn't
it's hold on. Brandon Vogel of Hell Varsity responded, so I got to find Vogel's tweet because it's a really good stat. And if you guys
that was what Riley did too.
But if you're listeners, you don't follow Brandon already. He's a great follow. So, where's that?
I've heard of Twitter.
Yeah, it's all right. I hate Twitter, by the way. It's like it's a necessary evil, but I would love to get off.
So going back to what I was saying about being the right fan, I was telling Jay stories. Like, I always get messages from customers and from friends about people just ripping me on the storyboards on Husker Illustrated, all that stuff. So I was actually sitting down after we talked about that, Jay, and I looked back and we were playing. I can't remember. It was a tight game. It was Iowa State when they were ranked, and I just smoked the quarterback on the sideline.
Yeah,
it was a clean hit.
Yeah.
And all I did was get ridiculed because it gave up. It was going to be a 3-and-out. They ended up scoring. I gave up the first down. Half the people are loving that I smoked the guy and got the penalty. Half are calling me irresponsible. Don't do that. Well, then the next time I shove a guy out of bounds, and I'm getting ridiculed for not smoking the guy.
Right.
So let's all at least get on the same page here behind the program.
It's always 6 one way, half a dozen the other.
That's right.
I'm not seeing his reply. So it is a stat is a 12 of Frost's 20 losses are by 8 or less. So,
which is technically a one-score game.
Correct. Where it is? It's a good.
Riley was right around that number too. Was it his second year? We lost in overtime on the road
at Wisconsin.
That was one of them. Miami.
Yeah.
Was that the same year? And then we had 2 more that were same thing, 3 points, 4 points, something
Could have
like
been.
that.
Was Miami no, because we beat Miami. No, gosh, that was Bo when we beat Miami at home.
Yep.
That was Bo. When Abdullah went off. And Randy Gregory went off. God, he was nice to have. I cannot find. It was like, I think Nebraska I think the number, if I remember correctly, is I think Nebraska is minus 14 in turnovers in these 8 one-score losses.
Oh.
In the one-score wins, we were like minus 1 in turnovers. So,
man,
but that's just bad football. Like, that's just, we can talk about it and discuss it, but like bad football teams they don't get the calls. You can always find out that you don't get the calls. And yeah, if they're bad calls, sure, but it seems like it's just bad teams get those untimely calls. They can't overcome them. They turn the football over, and they can't get off the field, and then you get off the field.
Yeah, the thing that really bothers me, and I look back at our careers and just, okay, this is as true as can be. The second you beat a good team that you competed with, a clean game, you beat them, you go, we could beat anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no intimidation, there's no nervousness going into any kind of big game, because you go, we competed with the big boys, we beat them, we could beat anybody if we do what we got to do. I haven't seen that game. And not only that, but we've lost to the teams that we don't need to lose to. And
that's just frustrating.
That's
the frustrating thing because we fired coaches for beating teams who were supposed to beat. We fired them because we couldn't win the big game. We just weren't beating in the Big Ten. We weren't beating the Wisconsins.
Ohio State. We had Pelini's big win at home.
Yeah.
When Levante David had just an unbelievable game.
What's his face got hurt, the quarterback.
Yeah.
But Ohio State was a weird. That was a weird year too, where I don't think they were able to go to a bowl game. That was like the year after all their sanctions.
Yeah, well, I stopped getting tattoos after that too. Is that older?
So it's
But defense, we're happy. We're not. Your best player got
the only bad thing that we talked about this too. I think on defensively is our backside runs. They weren't great. That's where Minnesota got us.
They're gashing
and
us.
we talked about our backside play. Like it's just.
Caleb Tanner was asked to do too much.
He's just bad eyes. Like, got to see the mess point, brother.
That's right.
Like, dude, the ball's handed off. Like, collapse and go get the guy.
Go be an athlete.
Like, you can't see that. Like,
and those are turnover plays because you're coming from the side. His vision's upfield, that running back, and that ball's looking right at you.
Yeah, you can get him. I mean, Nebraska's defense has played well enough. Like,
other
than the Illinois game, like in Ohio State, whatever. Like Ohio State's 5 wins or 5 games or whatever. They're still the best top 4 teams in the nation. That's not even up for debate. So,
do you want to talk a scary stat while we're going?
What?
The 2 top defenses, Northwestern and Wisconsin, have given up. Northwestern's given up 10 touchdowns. Wisconsin's only given up 9. How many do you think we've given up? Let me just answer it. 25 touchdowns.
We've got 25 touchdowns total
scored against us. Which you're like, okay, is that good? Is that bad? I'm going to tell you, that's bad.
In 7 games, it's really bad.
That's really bad. So it means you're not bending, you're breaking, not bending, which is a big part of playing defense. People never really understand that. When there's like a 9-play drive and they're moving the ball and you're able to shut them down and keep them to a field goal, that is a big victory. Just a big victory. But it's scary. It's a scary number. It's a lot of touchdowns. It's a lot of time in the red zone.
There's stats. I mean, some people are good at stats and providing certain things. The only stat I really care about is the effing win-loss column.
That's right.
And I don't care how ugly the stats are, what you got to do. Like, Al Davis, man. Like, just win, baby.
That's right.
Like, I don't give a damn how it looks, what you got to do. Is it ugly? Is it pretty? I don't know. We got to cheat more? Hell, I don't know. I don't know.
I've got ideas.
Right. Like, what do we got to do? Like, I don't know. Like, just win. Like, we got to win. And just somehow, some way, figure it out. And we come out. It's easier. But we've laid out some things. As you got to practice. You got to change your practices. Do you got to reach out to certain coaches? Do you need to ask for more help? Do you change your styles defensively? Do you change them offensively? To me, it's more offensively because defense has held up decently. I mean, because it's never been about the defense. It's all about scoring points and your offensive head coach. Like, you've literally, I think they've only through 7 games. The stat I heard this morning listening to Sports Talk Radio, they scored 40 points in the second half in 7 games.
That is not good.
No.
Ohio State scores that in the second half most of their games.
Right.
And that's the level we need to be at.
Totally. I mean, that's the benchmark. But
think about Northwestern's turn. I think there's hope. I'm not being negative, Nancy.
Well, listen, there's plenty of people out here who get the job done with less.
That's right.
It's Northwestern.
Fitzgerald.
Northwestern is
think of their turnaround.
One of their. I mean, well, yeah, they were terrible on offense last year. And get Patrick Ramsey, that helps them a ton. But they get the most out of everything they have. Even PJ Fleck, what he's able to do last year. Like, Minnesota does not get great recruits, but what he's able to do, and he gets. They know who they are. They're gonna be tough. They're gonna be physical. They're gonna run the football. They're gonna mix in some QB stuff, and that's what you get. That's what you get.
And then you create
and
opportunity.
They tackle. They block and tackle well. Yeah. Like, it's not. There's not a science. To me, it's sometimes we try to make it too cute.
That's right.
We almost like too.
I preach creativity, man. I preached it real too creative.
I don't know. Like, we try to be super balanced. Like, we do stay, like, really balanced in, like, most games or compared to run pass. But you know what? It's like, let's just run it 55 times, 60 times.
Yep.
I don't know.
Be in Iowa until we can move past that. Be in Iowa.
There's another one. Iowa gets better talent, but you know what they get?
O-line, D-line, baby.
O-line and D-line, take care of the football, nothing flashy.
Right.
Get some zone runs, you get some boots off of it, you get a
great opportunity, man.
Some dynamic players in there. Boom.
There's a recipe for success. And you're competing against the good teams.
That's just the thing.
You're not losing to bad teams, even though they have this year. But they've just progressively gotten better. You saw them on Saturday. They looked really good.
I always get the slow starts, and they just get better throughout the year. They just do. They get an identity. They do. It's just we just lack an identity. It's just inconsistency. You see it at times. You're like, whoa, that looked really good. And it's just you see it at plays. You're like, whoa, that was really nice. But then you get 3 plays of crap, and it's just when you punt or you miss a field goal or you don't get points, and you're just like, what? It's just extremely frustrating and puzzling. We've talked about it. We've given some sort of, I don't know, not answers, but ideas, and they're just trying to honestly spitball, just because otherwise I think I'd go crazy.
Yes, that's actually
the
best therapy.
I don't want to go.
You're not even charging me. What about Rutgers? I mean,
yeah.
What do we have to do to close this season out? Everyone's happy. I think we have to win 100-0.
Well, this is going to be interesting. I mean, you got a 3:00 kick. Supposedly there's a weather front going into the East Coast. Like, they're expecting like 8 to 12 inches from Wednesday to Thursday. So, like, travel could be an issue for Nebraska. So I don't know what that's an issue. But then also there were maybe talks of pushing the game back, because Rutgers is dealing with finals and you're playing on a Friday. But what?
Who's scheduling this?
Right. But no, I want to say, like, what prick Rutgers professor is scheduling a 3:00 or an afternoon final on a Friday? Like,
oh, they do. You know what?
I'm sure they can get a good excuse.
Won't see you there.
Right. Well,
I got ball to play.
Right. But so there's obviously some factors, and they've dealt with crazier stuff this year anyway, so they'll adjust. But I don't know. Like, you see early lines at 4.5, 5. It's gonna be like I would predict. I think I'm gonna predict Nebraska on a bigger wrap of like 21-20 win.
Wow.
I'll pick them to win, but it's gonna be close. I thought they were going to work Minnesota. I thought they were going to work them. I said 38-21. I thought they were going to work them.
I
had no reason. I couldn't find any way that Minnesota was going to come in and play well. I thought, like, they're checked out, but it just shows you. That gives credit to PJ Fleck.
Exactly. The only thing I thought that might be difficult. Oh, we got 8 guys that are feeling better. They're going to play now, or maybe 2 weeks of rest did them pretty good. Apparently it did.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Fleck, I got guys running up and down the field. It's pissing me off, but I'm sitting there going, if I'm playing for that dude, I'm ready to roll.
He's got a little juice.
No kidding. Red Bull vodkas.
He's got, some people rub him the wrong way, but I said he gets his guys to play well. Whatever he's doing, whether what he's saying, how they're practicing, he's getting them playing well.
I think we'll get there. I think that's a positive thing. I think this is an asterisk year. I think, thank goodness it is.
Yeah, I hate that, but that's an excuse, though.
But we need an excuse
no,
right now.
I'm tired.
We need
we
to
don't.
come in next year, and there is no holding back.
No more excuses, dude. We've had enough of them. You're still putting a product out there. I don't care. You're still practicing.
Just trying to be nice, Jay.
Excuses are like assholes. Everyone has them. They all stink. All right.
Speak for yourself.
Right. I'm tired of it.
I agree.
Fix it.
I agree.
It's year 3.
I just want to see.
I know.
Kill them. Do not take the starters out. I don't care if there's 40 inches of snow. You run the ball down their damn throats.
Are we going to watch the game together again on Friday?
I might have to get drunk. I can't lose to Rutgers Silver, Jay. I don't care about this damn COVID thing. I'm going to go somewhere. We're going to win by 40 like the old days, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice for one? It's not going to happen. We're not going. I'm not doing this to myself again and saying we should kill them. We should win by 3 touchdowns or 17 points. I'm not doing it to myself anymore.
Apparently, you haven't read Matthew McConaughey's new book. It's all about positivity.
Right. I'm not. I'm an optimist, but I'm just not going to set myself up anymore because I've done that. I thought we were going to smoke Illinois, and I thought we were going to smoke Minnesota. That just shows you,
fell in love and she broke your heart, Jay.
I see us play well, and I'm like, yes, okay, come on. I just assume that when you play well, you should be able to find that recipe. And I just said this on you find that recipe, and you find what you did well, and you can do it again.
Build onto it. Exactly right.
I mean, in the game of football. Like you
said earlier, before we went on air, the tendencies, you're trying to out-tendency yourself. Luke McCaffrey goes in, they'll never expect us to throw it. Let's go. Wait, what? Kid's just sitting on the sideline picking his nose.
Right.
He's had his hand down his pants. What are you throwing the ball for? He still got some ass mustard on him. Put on the ball. And then after 2 runs, if they suck up, maybe at the rope, but not backwards.
Yeah, but I'm tired. No more excuses.
All right, that's our new thing. No more excuses.
No.
Just get done.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'll get shirts made.
No more excuses.
Get shirts made. $49.95.
This is a results-based business. This is an excuse-based business. If we were, we'd be leading the country.
Okay, that's right. You could find those T-shirts for sale on Jay's OnlyFans page. OnlyFans /Jay Moore Huskers.
All right, let's wrap this thing up.
On that note.
I'm getting
delirious.
It's getting off the rails. Well, that's what
losers will do.
Bad football. I mean, we're talking about 5 losses.
Whew. Hopefully
2 wins, 5
next
losses.
year we're sitting down here. Just remember the dark days, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm optimistic.
I think it can get fixed, but it's going to be a come to Jesus type moment, I think, for this thing to get fixed with the head man.
I agree.
I think he has to go into a dark spot.
Scott or Jesus?
Both.
All hands on deck, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, Husker fans, time to send out that reserve prayer. We cannot lose to Rutgers. They will have to pick me off the McKinney's floor for the Rutgers. I am just going to tell you.
We're going to McKinney's?
I'm going. Let's go. Let's make a decision. I'm going.
They got enough Jameson for us?
They don't have enough Jameson for me.
All right, that's it. Be sure to catch Big Red Wrap Up tomorrow night, NET, 7 p.m., NET World, Facebook. You know the saying at 10. By myself, Michael Sevier, Sean Callahan. I think Damon Benning will make a quick appearance. And then it is Jeremiah Searles as our guest. So I'll be able to talk some more football with him, get some more football-related X's and O's execution going with him. It'll be fun. And then be sure to check us out next week for the Rutgers pod.
Victory pod.
Victory pod. We're calling it right here, Victory Pod.
If you want a victory, Jameson, you know where to find us.
All right. Thanks, guys. We're out of here.
A Hurrdat Media Production.